Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the always online multiplayer gaming podcast brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things multiplayer related. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, aka Magicman, as always. And it's Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. That means it's time for a live show. We're doing the show live, twitch.tv/MMOBomb. Love for you to join us, but if you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube or listening on iTunes, Spotify, any of those podcast platforms, we appreciate you being there too. Give us a thumbs up, a like, a subscribe, a review, all those fun things. But most importantly, give us your weekly bombs and your question of the week answers in the comments on YouTube and over on MMOBomb.com. You're an important part of the show. Without that feedback, there ain't no portion of the show there. The show gets substantially shorter. So thank you so much. We got a lot to talk about today. New companies, new MMOs, some of which, like, we had ideas were coming, and some of which were just like, okay, they're doing a thing. So we're going to talk about all of that and more. Joining me to do it all, Ms. Quinlan Bowers. What's up, Q?
I'm, really enjoying the sketchy-ass weather.
Yeah, it should be noted that all three of other hosts are in the middle of various fun, high wind, lots of rainy, thundery, lightningy stuff going on. So if at any point you're watching what is typically a 1-hour podcast on YouTube and you notice it's a 23-minute podcast, you'll know exactly what happened to one or all of us. We don't know. We don't know. Also on the line, the noob fridge himself, Troy Blackburn. What's up?
I am showered, I am caffeinated, and I'm ready to go.
It looks like you trimmed the beard, too, after last week's male pattern baldness discussion.
I need to shave. My wife is about to the point where she's getting on to me about shaving, so it's about to go away again.
Does she prefer you, like, with facial hair but a certain degree of it, or is she, like, a baby face gal?
If I was baby face, she'd be happy. I've always got the chin hawk thing, but if I was baby face, she'd be happy.
So that's why you grow it. He's like, I just can't ever happy. That's not an option.
Too much
he does
happiness
not
is bad for the
subscribe to
marriage.
the weird happy wife, happy life thing.
He's like, we've been married far too long for me to want you to be happy at this point.
That's right.
Just as miserable as me.
Yeah. If I'm not happy, then I'm letting this damn thing grow. Let's go ahead and get started with the news. Yeah, I'm kind of with Takal in chat. Like, I'm not a hair on my face kind of guy. Like, I'll grow it in for roles on, in stage shows or shooting anything, but then immediately it gets shaved off. It just bugs the hell out of me too. So it actually works out in the Burn household, not the Noob Fridge household. Why it's not called the Blackburn household, I'll never know. It's the Noob Fridge household. Hey, we've got a few new companies and a few new MMOs to talk about, so let's start there. And I think we'll start with the one that we know the least about right now. There are multiple members of teams of past games you know about: EverQuest, Call of Duty, Diablo, God of War, Assassin's Creed, Elden Ring, just to name a few, right? Forming Avalon Corporation. Now, one of the bigger names here involved is, of course, EverQuest's former producer, Jeffrey Butler, who many of us have known or covered for a long time now. But they are forming a new startup called Avalon. They've secured about $13 million in funding, and that's just recently. They actually have a bit of funding from before that, too. So they've got some money. They got some money laying around. And Troy, what they want to do with it is not only move themselves into the MMO space, but also kind of do the way I liken it is, do you guys remember covering Core, right? Or even Roblox as an example, right? Those games that, yes, they offer a game, but the core technology, behind it is more the user creation. This doesn't seem to be so much focused on individual user creation, but it seems like the ideas behind it are more to create new technologies to assist other development houses, if I'm getting this stuff right. They say, we have an opportunity to change the digital world, and we truly believe we're the right team to ensure these changes are beneficial for both creators and players. That's from Sean Pinnock, the CEO. And so they're going to make a platform and a tool set for companies that also want to delve into MMOs. It's an interesting proposition, particularly if you look at the lineup of some of their investors and some of their active team members, Troy, like Jeffrey Butler, where we see this a lot, right? People leave, they form a new company, it's going to change the world of X game genre in a certain way. And then sometimes we never hear from them again. Like, that's just it. We never hear from them again. This seems to be, they're accepting funding from the type of people you would expect to fund MMO or MMORPG research, development, new tech, like co-founder of Twitch, Kevin Lin, the previous CEO of Pearl Abyss, Robin Young. They've all put funding into this company. And then more importantly, the boots on the ground, so to speak, are people in the MMO space or massive multiplayer, things like Diablo and stuff like that as well. So maybe they can do exactly what they're aiming to do here, Troy.
Or maybe they just either produce games that are just the typical games that we're used to playing, or some of their technology stuff, like you were talking, was maybe more for back-end stuff, and it's stuff that we don't see forward-facing as players, and it's more stuff for developers and publishers and things like that.
Yeah, again, they plan to revolutionize how games and virtual experiences are built, and they're focused kind of on the sorcery of game making, Q. So unlikely to like see the next EverQuest coming out of Jeffrey Butler and the new team here, but maybe we see new projects on new tech. They say, we know that engagement is driven through play, creativity, and human connectivity, all critical elements that are severely lacking in most self-proclaimed metaverses. And it's exactly why the inevitable confluence of tech that will emerge as the metaverse will be built by game developers. I don't think they're necessarily wrong with that quote. That's not saying that they'll deliver, but...
So, yeah, when I was reading it, my thought was that they're more of a consultant or back end or whatever, kind of like how when Hi-Res created Skillshot Media and it was more of this back end stuff for
or Epic creates the Unreal Engine and then you go ahead and use that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I think this will, I imagined more services and stuff. Then here's an engine for you to play with. But it's funny, right? Because something they did point out that a lot of people have been pointing out is this meta thing, right? Like what Facebook thinks is the metaverse and what this other company said. None of these people actually understand what the metaverse is. They just picked a really cool word and decided to, use it to describe things. They're like, oh, this was in a science fiction novel once. It's got to do something. So we're just going to name this metaverse. So I think maybe these people might understand that and what the metaverse should be intended to be based on, what it originated as or whatever. Whether or not they achieve that, though, is an entirely different, thing. Because again, it's kind of like people are just like, well, this is the thing we're running with now.
Right.
Like how AI is used improperly for most things.
Yeah, and when I was reading, I think we had like a day or two notice on the PR on this. It had an embargo, but we knew about it, and I was reading through it. And one of the things, Troy, that did strike me was these are a lot of the right people. Like if I was going to say, hey, you know what? I think MMOs in particular, but gaming in general, I think we're building them in a bit of a wrong way, or it's not as accessible to all the companies that it should be accessible. And I want to change that. Just the name of lists of people there and the investors were all ones that I was like, these are the types of people that I would want. And then further reading, Jeremy Paris from Delphi Digital who's looking at this, it said basically the same thing. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm not that far off point. It said it's rare to find a company that has the vision, leadership, and expertise in many verticals to produce a revolutionary game and product. We at Delphi Digital believe that Avalon Corporation has brought together all the elements across the board to push the standard of gaming, the metaverse, and the new tech it's harnessing forward significantly. The future is closer than many think. Again, I don't know if this ends up resulting in something actually revolutionary, but I think it's got a better shot than most of the Jim Bob's Kickstarters that we see trying to do this same type of stuff.
Yeah, at least it's not a Kickstarter company saying they're going to revolutionize this and change the way that happens, because we've seen how often those fail and how often those succeed, which is, I don't think, ever. Gloria Victus finally launched. Is it a good game? Everything I've seen says that it isn't. So, Kickstarter companies that seem to want to revolutionize things don't go that way. So maybe you get the right industry veterans and not a bunch of people that nobody's ever heard of before going in the right direction. Maybe we can get something out of it this time.
Chat saying, spoiler, it won't. This is starting to sound like all those crypto scams. Yeah, I mean, we've heard this pitch 100 times in all of gaming, not just MMOs, not just crypto, not just blockchain, not just NFT, not just free-to-play, not just sub-based. Like, we have heard this pitch over and over and over again.
I think
one of the key differences, though, Q, is that they're not asking you for money right now.
Well, no, they're not. But I mean, that's the way like some stuff works. Like, I'm always skeptical of Kickstarter stuff at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Or whatever. But the thing about it is, too, and Kickstarter leading into that is, even though there's a whole bunch of names on here that were like, these people are industry leaders. They've been in this space. They know what they're talking about, whatever. How many game developers how many game developers can you name that are like, all right, I'm creating the next big thing because I created this amazing thing 10 years ago, or, whatever.
Oh, you mean Richard Garriott?
Richard Garriott, right? Will Wright, like all of these big names in games, right? And then you're just like, well, okay, you didn't really do the thing that you said you're going to do.
Yeah, they haven't produced anything worth talking about.
Do the thing.
Yeah.
Well, like when you look at Richard Garriott, by the way, the dude, like, obviously a legend as far as the genre goes, but it's just like you look at the last 10 years and it's like, man, that dude is pimping anything he can get his name on that has anything to do with like MMOs, NFT, blockchain, and then the second it starts going sour, he is gone. Like, he is just gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the thing. It's like, because I think for some of these people, and not necessarily the people in this list, but for some of the some of these game developers that were like, oh yeah, they know what they're doing. They have made amazing games that I love to play, whatever else. So many of them are trying to recapture.
Yeah.
Right there. So when I see a list of names and it's like, okay, all of these people are, but it's like, but are they at the end, are they just trying to recapture that magic that they had to begin with, instead of trying to make a new kind of magic? And
what's funny is they keep trying to capture it with the same tech. And maybe what Avalon is doing here is the right way to go about it, isn't it? I would think, right? Because the magic of Ultima, the magic of World of Warcraft, of EverQuest in those days was new tech. Like, there was nothing like these things out there at the times. And now we're in like such this digital age that, is there new tech on that front that can really make you feel that magic again? And as far as what we've seen generally available, no, but that doesn't mean there can't be, to Q, your point.
I think in some, like, a lot of these texts that we're just like, well, this is stupid, right? Like, we talk a lot of shit about NFTs and blockchain and all of that stuff, like we do, but it's not really the tech itself that's the issue. It's the people using the tech and the cynicism with which it is used, and the little get rich quick schemes and all of that. Like, I really think that, and I mean, even like Yoshi said this, there's some interesting things that can be done here, but he's not so interested in it that he wants it in Final Fantasy 14, right?
Right.
Like, but it's still potentially interesting, and it's still something that you could potentially do good things with if you have the right people with the right mindset doing it. And therein lies the problem.
And therein is why Avalon interests me a little more. Not like I'm like, oh, these guys are going to be amazing. I don't know that. And there's, I think, a higher probability that they won't be than they will be. But, Troy, I think I'm a little more positive than you are, simply for that exact reason that Q just gave. These do seem like the organizations and people that I would want looking at it in a, yeah, we definitely have to make money with it, but that's priority number 2 right now, not priority number 1 right now.
It depends on what they go back and what they're trying to capture, the tech they're trying to develop. Because to your point earlier, you know, the things that the people are going back and trying to recapture, the Richard Garriots of the world are trying to recapture, they're missing the point entirely every time they go back and try to recapture that. They think they can get by with shitty graphics and janky gameplay. And like you said, that stuff was new back then. That wasn't shitty graphics back then. Those were good graphics at the time. That was good gameplay at the time. So we're missing that point all the way around. So maybe some new technology, some new ideas coming in to bring back the community and some of the things that made those MMOs really good back then. And with the new technology and newer, better looking graphics, new systems in place, new things to help it run better, new things that bring the world together and bring the people together in a better way. Those are the things that'll bring MMOs back into the new generation.
We'll see. We'll definitely be keeping our eye on Avalon as they move forward. Moving on to now, this is a game. That one was a company. This one's a game. We got announced this week from Mainframe Industries, a medieval mythology-inspired sandbox MMO, Pax Dei. I'm showing the trailer below, and I literally, you can opt into their alpha right now on their site. It's coming up. There's no dates yet, but you can opt in. We'll talk about the opt-in process in a minute, because there's a little bit of a wrinkle in there that I was like, that'll probably turn some people off. But checking out the trailer, and the information, they did another like 8-minute video where they talked to the team, and I couldn't help but watch both of those videos. The trailer you're seeing now is B-roll, and the 8 minutes, Troy. And I looked at it and I was like, I've already seen more gameplay and like 7 times the team of the day before in just these 2 videos. And 72 hours ago, I didn't even know this thing existed.
Right? I was going to say, and you literally just found out about this.
Like, I met so much of the development team in that one 8.5-minute video. I've seen actual trailer footage that you're seeing now, but in the 8-minute video with the devs, you see, hey, alpha footage, it's actual gameplay, UIs, everything's in there and stuff. So I immediately pinged Troy and I was like, hey, because this kind of like ticked off all my Troy boxes initially. Mm-hmm. Unreal 5 looks great, right? Sandbox MMO, check mark. Community content, check mark. Like medieval fantasy, check mark. Like, and I immediately said, hey, you don't have to write this up. This isn't an assignment for you. We've already covered it, but you're probably going to want to take a look at this. This is something that I bet you would be interested in. Was I right, Troy?
I am signed up for alpha. I have an account made on the site. I filled out the survey, the whole deal. I'm ready to go. Pax Day, send me an invite. Let's do this. My body is ready.
It's just he's set already. And this isn't like Q, I think the way you worded it in the piece was, this isn't just dumping players into an empty sandbox. Like that's not it's not that type of approach. All those tools and things are there, but players are gonna have to cooperate on, village building, choosing plots in heartlands, building homes. It's all done, with a modular housing system and player skill. They talked a lot in the You Get to Know Us and Our Ideas trailer about you can be somebody that is just in here all the time, doing your thing all the time, or you can be a new player, and there's going to be ways you can contribute. If you want to be a new player and just play casually and you just want to be a gatherer, there's always going to be a need for those resources. And we hear these promises all the time, right? Let's not pretend that we don't. But You could tell from the video the team was at least very passionate about it. They seemed authentic. It didn't feel like PR speak. Will it deliver? I don't know. Mainframe is a company that has industry vets involved in it, but they also seem to be catering more towards the idea of cloud-based MMO in general. And yes, they did say this will be available on Steam, but ultimately, long-term down the road, they want it to be accessible to mobile devices and things like that. So again, we have this, we're going to experiment with new tech, well, not necessarily new. Cloud gaming isn't brand new or anything, but in the MMO space, it generally isn't all that nifty. So we'll have to see how they do on this front. It was an exciting announcement. I'll give them that.
Yeah, when I was looking, I mean, I'm not a big medieval fantasy game space person. It's just, I don't know, it's not the environment I want to hang out in most of the time. I prefer, more fanciful fantasy kind of stuff. But I mean, it did look really nice, and if they come through with a lot of the stuff that they're promising, it seems like Justin said, it might be something that ends up being what the people who wanted New World or whatever to be really great actually want. So if it is, that's great for them.
There is, safe zones, the typical stuff. Safe zones when you first start out, you can leave and things start getting more dangerous, not just on the PvE front, but on the PvP front as well. And it can get even more dangerous in some other zones later. But Troy, ultimately, to Cal saying, death of a game video inside a year of release. And I think it's hard not to be pessimistic about the sandbox genre when we hear these same types of claims, right? Because generally, they don't do well. They just don't. And whether that's the audience that thinks they want these, doesn't want these, or is it more that just it's never been executed to what that audience actually is looking for? And if so, what is that space of MMOs, that kind of sandbox MMO, what are they all doing wrong that they maybe catch a little niche and then it kind of peters out? We see that over and over and over again. And this looks too gorgeous to be one of those. I don't want this to be one of those, even though I'm not generally a sandbox guy.
Yeah, I think for most of them, I think they missed the mark. I think they're just sort of empty worlds, maybe some lazy game development where they want to call it a sandbox. So you just go and find things to do. Then they forget to actually, for a sandbox to really work, they have to actually provide you things to do along the way. And then you look at something like Arcade, which had, some fun gameplay elements and stuff like that, and they screw it up in other ways with cash shop and the labor system and stuff like that. So I think everyone that's done this has really missed the mark. I think there's enough audience to have one of these games really do well. I don't think, there can't be like a dozen sandbox MMOs out there. There's not enough folks for that. But you see something like this and you're like, maybe this could be what, Mortal Online 2 was wanting to be if it didn't suck.
Yeah, and so the argument, in chat going on right now is that the audience just isn't big enough for these types of games. And I don't know if I'm not a huge sandbox guy, I just said that, but I don't know if that's necessarily true, but it's not, I've never seen, I think the audience size is there, but I've never seen them all migrate to, this is the best of the best that's available right now, and so that's what everybody that likes sandbox MMOs plays. It may not be exactly what they want, but it's the best of the best as far as what that audience wants. The audience is so pulled over all of these different sandboxes that you took a niche audience and you made it even more niche. And I don't know what a sandbox game, and maybe PAX Day's got a special sauce. Maybe some accessibility is a key factor in this. Can you play it from anywhere? But we've seen Albion Online, be able to do that. And Albion does okay, but it's not at the top of anybody's lists. I don't know. Can one of these... It's like those people that say, we want a hardcore PvP MMO, and then when one comes out, nobody plays it.
So
is Sandbox destined to sit in that lot forever?
I think Justin actually made a pretty solid point, because when you're talking about sandbox games, what a lot of people forget about is EVE Online. And EVE Online has lasted a very long time, but there's 2 servers for it, and the only reason there's 2 is because one belongs to China.
Yeah.
So they've always had a single server for everybody to exist in. And they never ever had WoW numbers or any theme park MMO numbers, but they've always maintained a pretty steady player base. And like they have their ups and downs depending on different decisions they make, but they always manage to remain pretty steady, and they provide the sandbox elements, the wild west stuff that makes people go, oh my god, I'm never going to go play Eve because everybody's there is just crazy, right? But they also, like Troy said, they give you things to do. There's breadcrumby things to make it to where there's a reason for you to go places other than just going and mining ore or whatever, right? There's stuff for you to do given to you by the game, but then the bulk of the game is everybody just making shit up and doing what they want.
Right.
And it's all on a single server. And so many of these games, they think they're theme park games. They think they're going to have that 12 million whatever player base. And they're not. They're good. They're all going to sit. If they do well, they're all going to sit around where Eve sits, which is like, I'm not sure what their numbers are now, but like one point it was 500K.
Yeah.
And that's if you do it right, that is a respectable number, and it's a number you can make money with.
True. Now, to sign into the alpha, if you want to, we have the link on MMOBomb.com, so you can check that out. There are 4 steps that you will have to do once you create your account, right? First you're going to hit opt in, and it's going to ask for an email. You're not opted in yet. It's going to send you an email and require you to set up your account. And there are 4 things, and it's very clear that you have to do these, but we asked if one of them was required, because 3 of them are pretty standard. One of them is not. You have to link your Steam account. Okay, makes sense. You have to enter in what country you're playing in, and then you have to create the account. And the last item was filling out a survey for Solston, and then filling out some basic PC specs, right? So link Steam, enter your country, basic PC specs. I think what was it, Troy? I think it just asked for really the graphics card. It didn't really ask for anything else.
Yeah, it was just my graphics cards all it asked for.
Yeah. But there's a survey, and it's not what you think. It's not just, hey, Pax Dei asking, would you like to see this? Would you like this? What is your interest on this? It's
what
not.
MMOs do you play?
Right. It's not the typical type of survey. The survey was more of a personality survey, and it's through a third party called Solston. Now, that company specializes in basically things like player acquisition, getting your game in front of the right player types that would like your game, player retention, helping you with suggestions on things your team as the development team should focus on to keep your players. Also monetization. It's a consultancy basically for getting and keeping players, monetizing it, and saying, hey, this is the way you should take your content. It's a personality survey, though, that really has nothing to do with gaming. It was more like, on scales of 1 through 5, 5 being like strongly agree and 1 being strongly disagree. Like, are you somebody that if the task at hand is too hard, you will find an easier task to tackle that day? Like, it's personality questions. It felt pretty awkward. Like, I filled it out, and it only, like, Troy's right. It takes like 2 seconds, 5 seconds. There's only like 10 questions on it or something. But it was kind of like, what company is gathering this information and why? And I had to look into Solston. Now, the Pax Dei team doesn't get like Mike's results of that survey, but they will get the aggregated data picture on most of your players are self-starters, most of your players are this, and use that to kind of guide monetization and content development and player acquisition. I thought it was a little weird, but I didn't mind doing it. I can see some people Troy being just flat out turned off to the point that, no, I'm not signing up for an alpha by taking a personality profile. No.
I've filled out longer things than that before, for sure. Now, granted, they were more gaming related, like where you actually had to fill out like your complete PC specs and what games do you play and rate these games on a scale from 1 to 10, stuff like that. Done stuff like that. But yeah, this was my first personality, like, who are you type survey to fill out for a game alpha. So it was a little weird. I opened it once and I closed it. And I was just like, you know what, this game, it's too interesting. I'm going to open this back up and see what it is.
He was
'Cause
like,
when I
I
first
don't
opened
care.
it, I didn't pay much
I
attention to it.
I don't care how much information is getting scraped. I'm playing this game.
Right? Because when I first opened it, I didn't scroll down. So I was like, man, I don't want to fill out this whole survey. Like, I'm not going to lie, I didn't want to. And then I opened it back up. I was like, I really want to try this game, though. So I scrolled down and I realized it was only like a handful of questions. I was like, okay, never mind, we'll do this. But I was worried when I first opened it. It looked like it was going to be one of them, go to the next page, go to the next page, go to the next page. And I was like, I don't know if I'm doing that or not.
Yeah, and it doesn't tell you that all those steps are required. It kind of gives you like a completion percentage, but it doesn't tell you like if those are required for alpha or if that's just, hey, Q, your profile's 25% complete. You know, sometime come in and do the rest of it. So we actually reached out to the team. It took 1 or 2 follow-up emails to get an answer because we were dealing with their PR, third-party PR and everything. All of those steps are required. So if your completion is not at 100%, you are not opted in for the alpha. You got to finish it. It's a required step. Little weird, but definitely a game that I think a lot of people all of a sudden were like, all right, I'm interested. Let's see. Let's see what happens. Speaking of sandboxes, we move to the ultimate sandbox, and that is space. It's a pretty big sandbox, to Q's point there. Stardust Exile, an MMO RTS, is now in Steam Early Access, so you can go check that out. You are basically in the Milky Way galaxy. You've been exiled, and you are trying to work your way back to our own solar system. Over 200 billion stars, all kinds of different known systems, inspiring things, and then some procedurally generated stuff. And you can, it's a persistent world, control and harvest resources, name stars and exoplanets, make your own space fleets, create new ship designs, all that stuff. Interestingly, for this one, though, Troy, they're also going to make a single-player mode when the game actually releases. So if you kind of dig what's going on, but you don't want to eve it up, you can do it by yourself, which I thought was an interesting side option.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's going to bring in probably more folks who would want to play a single-player version of this, who aren't necessarily looking for the Eve experience, but want to go explore space and build their fleets and stuff.
I will say, Q, the music in the trailer was really good. Like, I was like, damn, that's some good music to be bopping around space in. That was pretty nice. I can't play it here for obvious copyright reasons, but check it out. It's $20 on Steam for early access, so it's kind of like, you know, how bad could it possibly be at $20? If you're looking for something that's just like, hey, do some Eve type stuff, this could be a little bit of an interesting check out.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to blow you away graphically or anything.
No, it definitely isn't.
But it's got a potential for some of the systems and stuff in place that it could be a really interesting play.
What are you thinking, Q? Interest you at all? I know you kind of dabbled in Eve here and there over the years, but maybe something in Eve Light, kind of, maybe?
I mean, Eve is an MMO, though. This, like, just...
this is too. They're
MMO,
billing it as an MMO.
Yeah, an MMORTS.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not really the RTS person. I'm the, you know, hit things with lasers or smack things with swords person. I'm way more violent than RTS games allow for.
Let your cat run wild and cause chaos type of person.
Look, don't talk shit about Derpy Cat.
That's stupid cat and Rift. Oh my god. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be big or anything, but just thought, hey, we got a lot of new stuff. This is in early access. I know people look for things like this, so let's talk about it a little bit. Last up on the news side, free-to-play co-op shooter Dead Side Club is also now in early access. So if you're looking for something maybe a little bit different on the FPS front, maybe this is one worth checking out too. The team kind of bills it as their interpretation of a 2D first-person shooter. Obviously, it's not a first-person shooter. It's just their interpretation of this. And it's by Press A. There are multiple modes in the early access. You'll have online PvP and co-op, battle royale mode, a horde mode, a domination mode, and then at launch there'll be some other stuff like a god mode and things like that. So I don't know. This one I don't think is for me, Q. I do kind of like the visuals of it. I think it's a little bit neat with the kind of frenetic 2D view and matches, I'm sure, always appearing very, very different from match to match. But I don't know if this one's necessarily for me.
So I think it's kind of interesting, and I always say I like shooters, but shooters don't like me because they
Right.
tend to make so this would be something where I would get along with it better. But the other thing is like I did a write up for it the other day for the game page, right? And it's actually they're describing it not as 2D but 2.5D.
Yeah. It's kind of got that
So
depth
it's got
perception there.
right, and I'm not sure because I could never tell looking at the video if you can actually move back into those spaces, so it's not just moving straight across, right? It's like,
Yeah, I
like
think usually
moving
when they
to
say 2.5D, it's just the background has some depth to it. It's
Yeah.
not really that you're.
but if they did that, if they actually allowed you to move back into the depth a little bit and stuff while you're playing, that would, I think, actually make it even cooler.
Troy, I think there's definitely an audience for this. Just don't get me wrong. I'm not in it. But there's definitely an audience for this. We've seen kind of 2D PvP shooty games like this, but I don't think we've seen one with this level of polish, maybe I should say. They've always been like very almost 8-bit or 16-bit looking or cartoony looking, and this looks like a little more, hey, we took Apex Legends, we took those types of games, and we flip the camera angle, and you have something a little more realistic but still over the top the way Apex Legends or Rogue Company or something like that would be presented. Of course, there's some silly costumes and stuff too. I'm not talking about the silliness of it.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the actual presentation of it.
Yeah, it looks like it's definitely geared towards actual shooter players. And if for some of those who might be looking for something different to play, something fun on the side to kind of throw a game up and see what happens. But yeah, I think it's definitely geared towards and sort of developed for fans of shooters.
Yeah, and if you're looking for it, I mean, you can't really go wrong, right? It's a free-to-play game. It is free. It is free. It's in early access. You can add it to your library right now if you want to play it. And even at launch, it will be free to play with optional microtransactions. So you can check out that early access right now. Kanado asking if the game's available. Yes. Head on over to Steam right now. All right. Before we get into a segment that I call Good News or Bad News, where I'm going to ask you guys your opinions on some news stories and do they ultimately equate to good news or bad news, we do need to pause for just a moment and just say, WTF, EA. EA, Electronic Arts, laid off their entire Baton Rouge, Louisiana testing staff. And that, as unfortunate as that is, it happens. It happens, right? Particularly around this time of year, the layoffs in the gaming industry happen. It's unfortunate, and we hope all of the impacted employees will find jobs very, very quickly. But Q, it's not necessarily the fact that they laid them off, but maybe how they laid them off that gives them the WTF, huh?
Yeah, so they it again, right? It's QA staff that's like a subsidiary through contractors and whatever, and like Mike said, it's not surprising that people get laid off, but this particular set of staff was doing work on Apex Legends.
Yep.
And
which I think makes a little bit of money. I think that makes a little bit of money if I remember right.
Yeah.
And that's all. Like they did work on some stuff prior to that, but pretty much when Apex Legends came out, they just shifted everybody over to doing that. And that's what they've been doing. So they basically got, quote, invited to a mandatory, this is, that thing again, right? Invited to
It's
a
a
mandatory,
voluntary mandatory meeting.
but to a mandatory Zoom meeting where the contracting agency, Magnet Global, was the ones who told them that they are being laid off. It wasn't previously scheduled. The staff was told to join using their personal devices from wherever they were at, and they were all laid off. EA also did not bother to let supervisors or anybody know. Literally nobody knew this was happening. It's basically what it comes down to. And to add insult to injury, they told everybody, you can come get your stuff, but security has to be here. I'm assuming because they probably figure that maybe 200 people that were just suddenly laid off,
that part doesn't. I don't bash EA for that. A lot of companies do that, and there's a good reason to, because people are dumb sometimes and make an emotional decision and do something stupid.
People. And then finally,
I mean, I'd probably go poop in my desk. I'd be like, you know what, just.
But and then finally they told them that they were getting a 60-day severance package, according to the sources.
Which may seem great, 2 months of a severance package, but
well, remember though, this is QA testing, and they don't make a lot of money to begin with. But it's not. Basically, they're giving them the severance package, and then just nixing the money that they would have just made if they had actually been allowed to finish the contracts.
Yeah, it does. The 60 days does not take it through to contract completion status. So they are effectively canceling a contract early, laying everybody off, giving them 60 days of pay. And, arguably they didn't have to give them anything. I don't know the details of the contract. So maybe that was a generous moment for EA. Maybe it was a contract mandated thing from EA. I don't know the particulars there. But yeah, hey, get on the call, Troy. It's a company-wide call. Oh, let me call my boss, see if they know what it's about. I don't know what it's about. Oh, shit, me and my boss, we don't have jobs. Yay, Zoom. Come on. There's better ways to do this type of stuff. There's a reason why you have the impression of you don't care about people.
Isn't it funny how you always have to sign these contracts, but yet the companies like EA always have a way to weasel out of these contracts?
Right.
Why are the contracts even existing if you can just walk away from anytime you want to?
Yup. All right. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about a few headlines, and I'm going to ask you to, if you think it's good news for the game, company, players, whatever the situation is, or if it's bad news. And we're going to start with Embers Adrift. So if you haven't played Embers Adrift, it's a box fee and a sub, and they want to stay that way. So what did they announce this week? They're going to be decreasing the box price and decreasing the sub price, all in an effort to, quote, their words, avoid other forms of monetization, or to stop them from having to, quote, run a base. They wanted content develop rather than, quote, run a digital storefront. So they're dropping the box fee to $29.99. It was $39.99. And the subscriptions have been lowered to $9.99 from $14.99. And this is another one of those, Troy, sandboxy, do your thing type deals, ironically. Is this a good thing for the game? Or is this a bad thing? We're on our way out and we need to do something quick.
I think it's a bad thing. I think they're in trouble for players and money. And yeah, this is better than them adding a cash shop, but it also would take time and money to develop a cash shop because they pride themselves on not having other forms of monetization other than the box price and the sub price. So it's going to take time and money to develop a cash shop if you even wanted to implement it. So this is a much quicker try to get some players in. So I think the game is probably in trouble, and I think this is bad news for players who are already invested in the game.
Q, agree?
Yeah, I'm one of those people who's not anti-cash shop, as long as the stuff in the cash shop is just fun stuff like I'm the dumbass who bought the balloon mount. I'm that person. I don't mind cash shops at all as long as it's not pay to win stuff or things like that. But I sit here and I look at their price decrease, right, of the box thing, and I'm just like, $10 I don't feel like is really going to make a difference and get players who weren't interested in paying $40, like paying $40 or $30. There's not enough of a difference there to get people in. You'd be better off just to go, if you wanted to keep the sub and drop the box fee or whatever completely, to try to get more people in. But the other thing is you're only going to get people in for a limited time, and then you're going to have bots joining more frequently. I don't know if there's a bot issue in this game at all or not, but like issues like that. So I understand wanting to keep a buy-in price. I think when you reach the point where you're dropping it $10 and you're dropping the subscription $5, you've already reached your player cap, and that's not gonna make a difference.
I kind of agree. Yeah, I just don't see. I want to see this as a good thing. It's like, but ultimately, I feel like it just can't be taken as a good thing. It has to be taken as, particularly the way they worded it. It wasn't like, hey, this summer, we're going to be running a promotion, or for spring, we're going to be running a promotion, and for a limited time, these and these. Like, they legitimately came out and were like, we don't want to put a cash shop in here. We don't want to run a digital storefront. And to keep us from doing that, we got to be able to make money. And so here's what we're doing. So we know there's a lot of competition out there, and we're hopeful that this will entice people to give our game a shot. And maybe it will. I'm sure the numbers will go up a little bit. How big, to Q's point? I don't know. Is the discount worth it? But they'll probably go up a little bit in the short term. Can you keep those players? And it also kind of flags to me, Troy, something you said. It's the game is not built for a cash shop. And you don't have the time now. Like, you don't have, it's not like, hey, we're good for the next year. Let's start building a cash shop now because we're going to need it. You were never built to accept a cash shop or run a cash shop, apparently, the way they're wording this stuff, which means this is an all or nothing play. And I think it actually, Q, your point on maybe you should have gone down a little more. I think you're absolutely right. I think, you make this $20 for a box fee, or 15, or even 10 for the box fee. And do like a BDO, right? It's a very minimal box fee, although Embers does have the subscription being required as a difference to BDO. Because I think if you have to do this again, it's just this wasn't enough. It's a huge flag, and now nobody wants to come and check it out because you've had to price decrease twice in the last 6 months just to try to maintain some audience.
Yeah, and the $30 box price doesn't appeal to me whatsoever. Like, it doesn't make me want to try to jump into the game.
I mean, it's really not enough. But if they had just done a BDO and went, for a week or whatever, we're just totally dropping the box fee, because how often does BDO do that?
Yeah, I mean, they're in the middle of one right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And their box fee is like normally $10, but even then they're like, 100%. But they also, too, the other difference I get between BDO and Embers Adrift is BDO's free box fee, right, is just the base game. Everything else, you're, the expansions and stuff, you're still buying.
Right. Okay. Good news or bad news, and I'll let you decide from whose aspect on this one. The European Commission has now extended its deadline to decide on what their final decision will be on the Microsoft acquisition of Activision will be. So they've extended their own decision-making deadline. Now, I'm going to add to this, too, because now we have also learned that Sony was originally served with a subpoena from Microsoft, and Sony was fighting it, saying this would require us to divulge trade secrets, because Sony was putting so much of its argument on Call of Duty and potentially making that title exclusive, even though Microsoft was saying that's not our intention, and we'll sign contracts that say it's not our intention if you want us to. They then followed up and did with NVIDIA Cloud and Nintendo, because so many people are sure Call of Duty is going to run great on the Switch. Anyway. Well, that subpoena was granted, and now Sony is actually going to have to divulge to Microsoft sensitive information, including information about their own exclusives and contracts, not just now, but dating back a few years too. So pinning their hopes on that argument, when Q saw that headline, she pinged me and was like, wow, I bet they wish they made a different argument now. Because they're going to have to reveal that. Combined, good news, bad news, Sony, Microsoft, Activision. I'll let you take whose viewpoint you want to take on this one, Troy.
I'm going to say that it's dogs are going crazy because the door is opening because of the wind. I'm going to say that it's good news for everybody. I think Sony, they've hung their hat on this one argument so hard that now we've talked about it. Like, why is nobody looking at Sony's exclusives? Like, they're the king of the exclusives. And now somebody is, and they're going to have to disclose information. And I think that's good. I think that's good for the argument that they're trying to make against the Microsoft acquisition. I think extending the deadline is giving everybody time to take a look at that information. And I think everybody has a chance to actually educate themselves about this deal and know more about what's going on with it. And overall, I think both stories are good.
Yeah, we didn't report on it because they're still technically rumors at this moment, but it's looking like if the rumors are true, the EU is going to end up approving this deal, even though some commissions said this could be damaging to, consumer things forward. Good news, bad news, Q. What do you think?
I mean, as far as getting to hopefully the end of this entire thing and hopefully getting rid of Bobby Kotick, I think it's great news. And honestly, it's so ridiculous, right? And Microsoft even pointed it out. And I've never understood Sony's argument on just this one freaking game, because Activision Blizzard is not just Call of Duty. It's a whole bunch of really popular IPs, right? But on top of that, it's the technology, the mobile and everything else that comes with King. And even Microsoft was like, yeah, King is the real reason we bought this.
Right.
Or we had to buy this. Like this right here.
They also acknowledge Sony has better exclusives than us.
And it's so funny that they're like, just, they've been banging on and on and on about Call of Duty. And it really comes down to Microsoft wants the mobile tech, and they want, some of this stuff that Blizzard has been working on for multiplayer stuff. And you're just concerned about this one IP. Like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah,
nobody's trying to pretend that Call of Duty doesn't make lots and lots of money. But the fact that this continues to revolve around Call of Duty, and Call of Duty is all that ever seems to get brought up whenever we're talking about what Sony's complaining about. It's just, as I said in the article, it's just ludicrous.
Last up on good news, bad news, the Blue Protocol character creator, limited character creator, and benchmark testing released this past week. Yes, you can run it in the West. It is not region exclusive or anything. You will need to use Google Translate on their page so that you can navigate it, but it's very, very easy. The Google Translate's actually really, really good on the page for once. Yeah, shockingly, it was pretty good. So is it good news, bad news for you, Troy? Did you like what you saw with the character creator? And is your PC ready to go for checking out Blue Protocol? Was it good news or bad news in the Blackburn front?
Haven't done it. Don't care.
Oh, okay. Q, you're up. Go ahead,
The game
Q.
will run fine on my PC. Everything will work just fine. I've got no issues running Blue Protocol. I don't need to download a benchmark to figure it out.
What about you, Q? Did you check it out?
Yeah, I haven't downloaded the benchmark either. And for a couple of reasons. One, we have no idea when it's coming over here. And two, the character creator is a character.
Yeah.
You can make
a
one
class. Yeah.
Like, so you can make it, you can save it, like it almost like you're pre-making a character, but it's just the one class. So I mean, I'm just, I'll wait till they finally, and obviously they're going to announce it's coming over here because they're sending us press releases.
Yeah, it's already, we got the confirmation that Amazon and all that fun stuff too.
I'll just wait. And I don't know if it ends up being on like another game on GeForce Now, then I'll probably just play it through that anyway, and I won't have to worry about the benchmark test.
Yeah, it was good news on my side. It was like 10,000 or above. You're not going to have any problem, even on the highest settings. My computer clocked in at like 18,500. And I was like, okay, yeah, I think I'm pretty sure I can run this cartoon. Before we head over to the weekly bombs, I would feel remiss. It is launch week for Lightfall. I feel like we should take a few moments. Troy, have you been delving into the Destiny 2 Lightfall expansion?
No, I have not. It does look super interesting, but it's just not something I've got time for right now.
I know it's not your type of game, Q, so I'll talk about D2's Lightfall. I have mixed emotions about Lightfall so far, and I have faith that Bungie will fix some of the issues that a lot of players are griping, and I'm admittedly a much more casual Destiny 2 player than somebody who's that's their everyday game or whatever. I am enjoying aspects of it. I love the Witness and that whole character. I love some. I'm not going to give any story beats here, but there are some interesting things going on in the story. I've not completed the Lightfall main scenario yet because some of these missions are so fucking long. Oh my god! Maybe it's just me, but I don't remember missions. Some of them just being this freaking long. Like literally, I can't. For the Lightfall missions, there's some of them that I'm like, all right, I got to go somewhere in 20 minutes, or I know I'm gonna have to proof a piece in like 25 minutes. I'll get through this mission and then I'll sit in space while I proofread something Q wrote. No, like I'm still gonna be in that damn mission half an hour later or stuff like that. There are some tech issues. There are some build issues. Like there's all kinds of issues here and there, and some people are really, really unhappy about the expansion right now. I'm kind of in the middle. There are aspects of it that I'm enjoying. There are aspects that I'm not. I do plan to talk about this with the team a little more next week after we've had some more time to get into the content, and I don't want to really spoil anything. So it's kind of getting a 6 right now, but I'm not done with it yet, and I very well could see it going up. We'll see. Let's head over and do the... I'm not going to bring Yod on. Next week, we will have one guest host. Troy or Q will be here. I don't know which one. Maybe raise your hand. But we're also going to have a special guest. Somebody Q and I used to work with on Game Breaker a long time ago, Sean Lang, is going to guest host on a show. And then, of course, Matthew, Dino Fries, just joined the MMOBomb team, replacing Aspen as she departs to take care of her growing family. We obviously love Aspen, and she's welcome here anytime. We've talked about her popping in on a cast here and there. But make sure you welcome Matthew to the team. He will be on his first cast probably late this month. So trying to start the cycles back up as we had to bring in some new people. Let's go do the weekly bombs. Troy, what do you got?
A bomb to Sony, just because, just to echo what Kyle said in chat. I'm just sick of their bullshit.
Easy enough. Cute.
I'm actually going to give a bomb to next Tuesday because that's when we get all the busy work stuff and XIV, making our tools and all of that shit. So I've actually got something to do again.
Yay. I'm going to give an A-bomb to Blood Bowl 3's launch so far. I like the Blood Bowl series, and I had beta tested 3 and couldn't talk about it because it was under NDA for multiple tests, so I couldn't talk about it at all. And it just launched, and it is not a good launch. The core systems are there. The game itself isn't terrible, but the monetization isn't great. The servers are not great. The team is like the teams that they're going to release as DLC. It's like, why are those paid? Like, it's just not great. Fans aren't happy, and I'm one of them. So an A-bomb to Blood Bowl 3's launch, and that game is not big enough for you to take a long time to fix this stuff. You got to address it now, and the way they initially addressed it doesn't exactly inspire a lot of confidence because they talked about, we have faith that we're doing things fairly, and it doesn't feel that way monetization-wise. From chat, Baron Vagabond saying, dub-bomb to ArenaNet for enabling Twitch drops on all Guild Wars 2 streamers instead of forcing you to watch a select few. Definitely. Old Glory saying, dub-bomb to our team. Soon we will have a Steam page. Hope everything goes well. We hope it goes well for you too. Takal saying, A-bomb to moving all the cost that comes with it. To moving and all the cost that comes with that. Got paid today, already broke. Definitely been there. Number of people chiming in on topics from last week. No bombs on YouTube, so make sure you get your weekly bombs here. But I did bring your feedback on topics, which is also always welcome. The Pie Maker says, on the topic of Redfall, talking about Redfall, games that give you a negligible amount of premium currency per week for completing gameplay challenges while having an ever-expanding cosmetic selection where items that would take a free player months to earn are rotated out and replaced on a weekly basis would technically fall under their banner of all cosmetics are unlockable through gameplay. I mean, I think they were, I think the Pie Maker was a little more pessimistic than even you, Q, where you were like, yeah, there's other ways to do this. They were like, I see exactly how they're going to do this, son of a bitch. You're not wrong, Pie Maker. You're dead on. It's definitely possible. Go ahead, Q.
Joao, why are you surprised, Mike? Warframe is also in no wipe early access beta.
Yeah, that was talking about Wayfinder and, like how fast it's, they're running another test right now this week too. Yeah, I shouldn't have been. You're right. You're absolutely right. Go ahead, Troy.
Raise 0101, Suicide Squad, dead on launch. In more news, developers continue shitting the bed, focusing on die instead of producing games worth playing while publishers continue their march towards oligopoly. Is that how you say that word?
Yeah, oligopoly.
And consumers consume the slop they're given to distract them from the overbearing responsibility to fix their small corner of the world.
Again, pessimistic, but not wrong. Like the viewers
We're
are
all grumpy today.
Everybody's grumpy today, but also on point. Corey V, what I got from Suicide Squad is it's just Saints Row, but with a DC reskin. I guess that's why it kind of looks fun. I could see Amazon getting a contract with NCSoft to make sure they're able to change things on the monetization side, talking about Amazon picking up Throne and Liberty and how much they may or may not be able to push back like they have on some monetization things in Lost Ark. Question of the week last week, what's your favorite MMO or MMORPG memory? Was it raiding with a friend, meeting someone online that's now a part of your real life? What's the greatest memory you have involving an MMO or MMORPG? And I knew some of these would be a little longer, so I couldn't take them all. I apologize. Old Glory says, maybe not my favorite, but the most memorable. It really was the first big MMO, Lineage 2. Starting Island for Humans. Spent there weeks. Usually on a low-rate server, you spend a few hours there. But nope, Old Glory likes living there. But everything was new, felt so cool, learning everything you can and you need, and then those were the good old days. I say big because me and my brother played RuneScape on the same PC on the same account in 2003. It felt more like a single-player game for me with some exceptions. My most favorite moment would probably be Castle Sieges from Lineage 2 as well. All Latvian, clan one of it, not top clan on the server, Ventrilo, Mumble, TeamSpeak, the tension, the good feel after the successful fight, super good teammates. At first, I thought they would not take us into the clan. Me and my friend and brother applied for a clan in the old style forums. Remember those days? Applying for guilds? We were green and super new to Lineage 2. But at the time, it was pretty hard to find Latvians playing the game, so older players showed us the hows and what's what. Blinked, and 3 years went by really fast, had internet problems in the new place, and had to stop. After that, playing Lineage 2 with a small group of friends for fun, and somehow landed in one of the top clans again. Someone once commented that I said clan in regards to Lineage 2. It did not have guilds. It was clans and alliances. It was news to me when I heard other games actually call them guilds. Yeah, I think like guilds has generally become the term now, but like even Final Fantasy does it. It's free companies there. So, yeah, totally different. Go ahead, Q.
Joe, had a week or two of great fun in the summer of 2018, 2019, where me and a friend would play Heroes of the Storm, and our teamwork was so seamless. that I only remember us telling jokes and making fun of what was happening, even as we grit our teeth to pull some of the wins. I recall fondly playing as the co-op hero Cho'Gall that day, and in general, Cho'Gall was always great to work together with someone for our kills. That summer felt like summer.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what he means. You know what they mean. You know what they mean. Go ahead, Troy.
Misfit Rain. Most memorable moment for me was in EverQuest. The game was brand new. A friend had got the game, and I believe he was in Fremont or whatever the city. Bought the game at a store and stopped by his house to BS a bit before going home and installing the game. He said, open the game up and register my account. So I did. Logged in the game on his computer and was checking it out. I rolled a Dark Elf because, R.A. Salvatore.
Like
Then
you
I decided
do.
Yeah, like you do. Then I decided I wanted to go to Fremont where he was part so I could go home and we could play together. It took us 8 long hours on his computer to get where he was because the distance and my level 1 character dying and getting one shot constantly. We were having a blast taking turns trying to get as far as we could. Can you imagine the roar when we succeeded? Epic.
I remember, like, it wasn't in EverQuest, but it was in Final Fantasy XI, like the low-level body drags trying to get from your starting city to the central city of Juneau. Same type of thing. I absolutely can picture exactly what was going on in Misfit's view of that whole event. Alan M00 says, I met several friends through World of Warcraft back in the Lich King days. I keep in touch regularly with a few via text messaging and the occasional phone call. One friend I made is my best in real life friend as well. We've only managed to get together a few times, but still game to this day and enjoy chatting while gaming as much as the actual games we're actually playing. We normally aren't the best at the games we're playing due to not having a lot of time to devote, as well as the fact that we both play healers when that's an option. One of us has to DPS, and when we run dungeons together, we aren't the best at that role. We still have a great time, though, and never have enough time. I love MMO memories. Oh, Takao threw one in chat. Probably beating Lakshmi Extreme, which was my first and to date only Extreme Primal when it was new. Took 2 days with randoms, but I can look back and say I cleared one at launch. I can also say I have zero interest in that moving forward. Question of the week this week. I got to ask, what are your thoughts, your initial thoughts on PAX Day? Does it look good? Does it look interesting? Do you like where the team is going? What do you think about the reveal of the new MMO PAX Day? Have you signed up for Alpha? Let us know all of your initial thoughts in the comments below on YouTube. But of course, remember, what pays the bills is you stopping by MMOBomb.com, checking out the game pages, the first look videos, the news articles, and so much more that's there. We'll be back here Friday, 1 p.m. next week with another episode of the Always Online podcast. Until then, Troy, where can everybody find you?
Hey, I've been streaming every night at 8 p.m. Central Time, twitch.tv/noobfridge. I'll be on tonight. Come check it out.
Cute.
Twitter at Quinlan.
I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me right there at magicman1, but more importantly, follow at MMOBomb. That way you'll know every time we post an article, giveaway, first look video, cast, free to play weekly, and so much more. Until next time, stay safe, and we'll see you on the servers.